Hey everybody, and welcome back to FSi DFS, looking at the 6-game main slate here, early slate as well on Thursday. It's travel day for many teams, so we always get these very small Thursday slates that are kind of spread across the board, but this is the biggest one that we do have. As always, pay attention to any weather that might be sliding through at first pitch, but I really don't think there's too much to be worried about here on this day. Pitching, pretty, I think, chunked. Is that the right word to say it? I mean, you got 3 guys in the very high salary tier and then like a massive gap. And then I think there's 3 guys who are very even in the middle tier with Peterson, Nelson, and Montero all having very near identical strikeout rates. And yeah, kind of similar matchups. On Montero, not so much against the Angels. And then just like the rest of the board. So it is pretty chunked, high, mid, and low. We got the sheet we'll pull it up here in a little bit, and I included strikeout rates for all of these pitchers to go along next to them so you can see where they land. But we'll just start up here at the top. King, Eovaldi, and Gray. We got Gray with the highest strikeout rate amongst these 3 guys, but is in the toughest matchup against San Diego. San Diego is a very low strikeout rate team. Eovaldi, he's got a nice matchup facing off against the White Sox and their atrocious offense that we have seen all season long. And then we got King, who has been essentially the king of floor over the past month or 2 months at this point in time. He's just routinely going out there and getting you 20 plus DK points every time. It's great. St. Louis, they're just kind of falling into just nothingness as we kind of wrap up the season. We still got a month to go, but it's going to be the end before we know it. So if I was to rank these 3 pitchers, I do have King up at the top, followed by Eovaldi against the White Sox, and then Gray. While he does have the highest strikeout rate of any pitcher on the board, there's still a little bit of hesitation with him because he's facing off against San Diego, who's such a low strikeout team. Also, while I'm thinking of it, Nastrini, I do have a question mark here. I'm recording this the night before, as you can see. It's an early slate, so I wanted to get it out early. But White Sox have not announced a starting pitcher yet for Thursday, so he's a question mark. But regardless of who the White Sox do throw out there, Texas is going to be a team and a stack that probably a lot of people are going to have some interest in. Going into the mid-tier, we got Nelson, Peterson, and Montero. There's not really anything separating these guys at all in terms of strikeout rate. Walk rates, pretty similar as well. Nelson and Peterson are going to be facing off against each other, and Montero is going to be facing off against the Angels. So a little bit of a boost towards Montero in that regard. However, I still am going to go with the floor and the consistency that Nelson and Peterson have provided with us over the past handful of starts. Montero just lacking a little bit there. So Montero's not a fade by any means. I still do really like the matchup, but if I was going to be ranking these 3 guys, he would be coming in third for me. Peterson and Nelson, again, they're facing off against one another. The Mets and Arizona, 2 decent offenses. Nelson, I fully admit this is a guy that we would pick on for so long, but he's really come through over the past 10, 12 starts that he's been going out. He's just routinely just been pumping out the 20 DK points. He's getting you 5, 6 to 8, sometimes 9, as you can see here, strikeouts in each of his starts. So it's really impressive what he has been able to do. Do I trust it? I'm going to need to see a little bit more, but there's absolutely no denying what has happened over the past 2 months. I don't know if he's changed his pitch type or angle or what, but this is a guy that we would pick on so many times in DFS, and then all of a sudden he's become really consistent and really solid. Heading down into this cheap tier, we do have Coors Field. Not a whole lot of interest in the Coors Field pitchers, maybe a little bit more in Belozo, but nothing in Blaylock. He's definitely going to be a fade for me. Nastrini is also questionable. He's to be determined. I don't know who the White Sox starter is going to be. Birdsong is actually the guy who has the highest strikeout rate amongst these guys at 27.6%, but he is facing off against Milwaukee, and Birdsong's a pitcher who, we'll just say he's not very efficient with his pitching. Yes, he can get up to 85, 90 pitches, but because he goes into such deep counts and walks a handful of guys as well, he's only going 4 innings essentially every single start. And so while a 27% strikeout rate for a guy who's only priced at 6.3 is really attractive. The fact that you can just kind of throw out a win possibility or generating, 18 outs, like that's definitely a little bit of a knock towards him. So Savali does creep up there a little bit with Belozo also in Coors Field, but is it something that I'm super excited about? No, not really. I'm definitely going to be sticking up towards the top tier in terms of pitching, because bats, I don't think there's going to be much of an issue in terms of finding value. Your top two teams, in my opinion, are going to be Detroit and Miami, and they're also like the affordable teams as well. Even Texas is going to be in a nice matchup against the White Sox, whoever their starting pitcher is in that terrible bullpen. And Texas, while they have been slumping as of late, is still just a very, very affordable team. Kochanovitz, you can see 7%. That's not a typo. He really has a 7% strikeout rate in his 5 starts in the majors, so it's just going to be a no for me. So looking towards the bats, I already mentioned Detroit and Miami are going to be the two teams that are probably going to see a lot of interest. On the Detroit side of things, it's going to be a lot of the lefties. It's going to be Green and Carpenter, Keith and McKinstry and Meadows. Keith, Meadows, and McKinstry are just hitting the ball incredibly well at this point in time. They did really well for us. I think it was 2 nights ago. We had them stacked up pretty well and loaded. It was great. But yeah, Keith, Meadows, McKinstry. McKinstry is a big pinch hit risk, so do pay attention to that. If Kochanowicz gets out and then they bring in a lefty, he's probably going to get pinch hit for, even if it's like the 5th inning. So do pay attention to that with that concern. But Green, Carpenter up at the top, always going to be in play. In terms of the Miami side, and like I said, with Detroit, they're going to be extremely affordable. Colquitt 3.8, Meadows 3.7. McKinstry, where is he? 2.8. Yeah, like super affordable on that. Miami also pretty affordable, facing off in Coors Field against Blaylock. Again, going to be targeting kind of the lefties. Sanchez is going to be in play at 4.4. Norby, I know he's a righty, but this guy's been leading off, and he's been doing very, very well. So we're just going to keep putting him there, and he's going to be raking in. I'm going to keep playing him at 4.1K, even as his salary does steadily go up quite a bit. One guy I do want to talk about, though, is Conine. Lefty-righty matchup. He's a high prospect. Done well so far. I didn't expect him to be in the lineup, but he was here on Wednesday night. But 3K, can't really go too wrong with that. And you can quickly see, like, if you go with some of these cheaper guys for Miami and Detroit, let me just get some of these guys in here so you can see what we're talking about. We'll throw in Keith there, so Norby will go to 3rd. We'll put Meadows in the outfield with Conine. We'll get we'll put McKinstry in. I know he's a pinch hit risk. We'll throw him in there as well. And then just go absolute 2 studs here at the top for pitching. And you're looking at 4K remaining with 2 absolutely dominant aces. So maybe you don't go with McKinstry and you go with a higher guy in Detroit, like a guy like Riley Green or Carpenter, and you're still looking at 3-3 remaining, even with 2 absolutely stud aces. So salary is not going to be too much of an issue on this slate at all. Texas is another team that's going to be really intriguing for me, facing off against the White Sox. And again, it's just another team that, while they have been struggling, it's seen their salary really get suppressed quite a bit. But Smith, Young, Lowe, Langford, the fact that these guys are all sub 4K, still pretty shocking to me, all things considered. Going back to the sheet, Colorado I think is a really intriguing play just because it's Colorado and what they're able to do. Belozo, he's okay, but I mean, anytime a pitcher goes into Coors Field for the first time, there's going to be a little bit of hesitation with that. So definitely going to have some interest in there. I might even bump them down just because if they're seeing some ownership, I'm just going to fade Coors at that point in time. But San Diego does go up a little bit. I know they're going to be facing off against a very high strikeout rate guy in Gray, but maybe the strikeout rates don't get there because San Diego is such a great elite team at limiting Ks for opposing pitchers. They're able to get on base and get to that bullpen pretty darn quickly. That's pretty much it. I mean, obviously go with Detroit, Miami. They're my favorite cheap plays. The Angels are certainly going to be in play as well against Montero. And then I think leverage is just going to be the bats facing off against who I expect to be the most popular pitchers. So you got Milwaukee. Let me get these all right here. There we go. We got Milwaukee facing off. Oh, that's why. Milwaukee facing off against Savali. I'm like, why did I put them over there? Savali, I think he could see some ownership just as like a cheap option, but at the same time as like I was talking about this a little bit more and putting in like a Detroit Miami stack, I don't think he's going to see as much ownership as I was expecting the first time when I did put Milwaukee over into the leverage stack. So you can kind of almost throw that away if you really want to. But St. Louis facing off against King, I think could be a nice leverage stack going along with that. So hopefully this was able to help you kind of guide you in the right direction with where things are standing. Good luck in your contest as always. I'll be back on Friday for that big double-digit game slate. And then Mega Roller will have a video for you on Saturday. But good luck in your contest as always. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you in the next one.